Hey friends, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duns. You're back with just one Dun again today. Life is just an adventure, and we stayed out partying way too late at our trunk or treat for church last night. So we're starting out Ecclesiastes, and today we read chapter 1. This week, we get to jump into this book, most likely written by King Solomon, King David's son. And we just finished in Chronicles, kind of reading about King David. This book seems like a heavy book, and it's because of all of the emotions the author is feeling and he's writing about. What he's dealing with is the fact that this life on earth is just not what it's cracked up to be. It's not turning out the way he envisioned, and he is depressed, honestly. Throughout the book, we're going to see the writer go through many different facts of life and areas of his own life and share how none of those areas satisfy. None of it brings him the lasting joy that he's looking for. He says that even if it does bring a little bit of happiness, even that is fleeting and it doesn't last. The word he uses over and over again, depending on the translation that you're reading, says vanity or hevel, or life is vanishing or fleeting. That's what that means. Vanishing or fleeting. It's like a vapor, and just like a smoke or a vapor that you see in the air, you see it for a second and it goes away. I am amazed at the way God uses similar themes in the many different areas that I'm studying the Bible. And he's been speaking to me on this in my Bible study for Sunday school, and then also in my personal chronological Bible study plan. I've been studying the theme of how earth isn't all it's cracked up to be. Life on earth is broken and it's difficult, and it's always going to disappoint us as long as we're on this side of heaven. We spent all day in our Sunday school class yesterday talking about this, and not only is God speaking this theme to our lives, but us as a class, that's what we've been going through. We've been experiencing really difficult times in life where we've lost loved ones, we've watched people walk through sickness. It's just been a really hard time. And this theme, we can't help but see that life isn't all it's cracked up to be as we're on this earth, on this side of heaven. I've studied 1 Samuel, and it talked about Hannah, and it talks about her prayer, my studies on prayer. And I think that's one of the most important disciplines to help us get us through these moments. And so the life of Hannah, we see her praying and asking God for a baby. And in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 1, it tells us that she has asked year after year. So Hannah has gone through a long, difficult time of praying and asking God for a baby and still not having one by the time we pick up in scripture with her story. And so I'm sure her life did not look the way she thought it should look. And I'm also guessing that God wasn't answering her prayers in the way or in the timing that she wanted. That's kind of how I am. When I go to God in prayer, I want the answer quickly, and I want it in my timetable, and I probably want to answer it in the way that I think it should be. And so, spoiler alert, the Lord does give Hannah a baby, and it's a really great story. If you are not familiar with that, check it out in 1 Samuel. I've also been studying about the death of Lazarus and how Jesus didn't rush to Lazarus' side when he found out he was sick. And so Lazarus ends up dying. But what Mary and Martha, Lazarus' sisters, didn't know, and what we don't know when God answers our prayers, is that he has a plan. He has a greater plan that doesn't necessarily account for our own ideas, our own thoughts of control, our own timetable. And so when God answers our prayers, it's according to his plan for our lives and according to his perfect timing. He's never late. I know it looks like that in that story, especially to his own family. But what God shares with them, what Jesus on earth shares with them, is that he had a plan to raise Lazarus from the dead so that many would see and many would believe and come to faith in Jesus. And so it is a great reminder to me that when things don't work out according to my own plan or in my own timetable, God also has that same plan for my life and for your lives. Sometimes that means our life circumstances are not going according to the way that we think that they should go. Life on this earth is vanishing and fleeting and disappointing as long as we're focusing on the wrong things. When we focus on those earthly things, it's easy for us to get down in the dumps and overwhelmed and even depressed. It's something we have to actively fight against because our fleshly human nature and desire is going to draw us to think about the things of earth. So that's where we are when we see Solomon. That's what we see him doing in Ecclesiastes. Remember, this is the guy that asked God for wisdom. God said, you can ask me for something. And he said, how about wisdom? I'm going to be the king. I need a lot of wisdom. And God was so proud of his request for wisdom. And he said, since you didn't ask for wealth or power and all this, I'm going to give you tons of wisdom, but I'm also going to give you the wealth. I'm also going to give you the power so that you would be a great king for Israel and a leader for Israel. And so Solomon has all of those things. He has these things in abundance, more than anyone around him, I'm sure. But he finds that none of those things are satisfying to him. Ecclesiastes can be one of these books that serve as a life lesson where we get to learn from others' mistakes. What we can take away as we read through this is don't look to money, don't look to power, don't look to time or any of the temporal things of this earth to satisfy us. Let's learn from what Solomon has learned, that only God can satisfy us. We see Solomon's relationship with God in other Old Testament books of the Bible, and we watch Solomon's heart get pulled away from God. He marries lots of women who worship other gods, which as he has a relationship with them, his heart starts turning away. We also see his heart get pulled away probably because of that wealth and the power that he had. I know power a lot of times gives us the temptation to please man or impress man or care about what they think. Yesterday in church, Preacher Hubbs quoted St. Augustine, and it's like St. Augustine is talking to God, and he says, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they find you. We can search and search and search the things of this earth, but our hearts will remain restless until we seek God and we find him, just like his word tells us. So today in chapter 1, and as we kick off Ecclesiastes, my takeaway is to remember to look to God and only God for my joy and for my satisfaction in this life. Because when I lose my focus, just like Solomon, that's when life gets really difficult, and that's when my soul struggles. That's when I get down in the dumps or depressed. I'm losing my focus on God. In the recap for the Bible Project for Ecclesiastes, the Bible Project mentioned for us to enjoy our life as it happens. Don't sit there thinking about how it should be or how it ought to be or how we don't have control of what goes on in our life, but instead enjoy each moment, enjoy each day. That's something I've really been trying to focus on. As my kids are growing up, they signed up for all kinds of things. And even with Dusty and I limiting how many things we're involved in, we have 3 kids. We are crazy, running from here to there. And God has really impressed it upon me not to live my life wishing for the next day off or wishing for the next school break or a future moment, but instead to live in each moment and look for him in each moment. And so personally for me, the best way that I can keep my focus on God, some practice that I've learned in reading 10,000 Gifts, the story of Anne Voskamp and her having her own Ecclesiastes moment. And this world really stinks and it's not all it's cracked up to be, and I don't like it. There's got to be more to this life, and it is, and it's God, and it all revolves around God. But there's a practice, and she just practices counting her blessings. And the way that I do that, I have a gratitude journal, or you could have any kind of journal, but every single night I try to sit down before bed, and I forget sometimes, so I'll try to go back and catch up. But I try to sit down and think of what I'm thankful for that day. And sometimes it's big, really cool things that happen. And sometimes it's like, ooh, there's a crisp coolness in the air, and I love fall, and I'm so excited that it's here. Or it's time with my family on the porch, where we get to hang out, one of our favorite places. Or our Saturday, this past Saturday was our first Saturday home all day in a really long time. And I was excited to spend that time with my family. And so that's a really important practice to me. And what it does is it helps me not to focus on the things I can't control. It helps me not to focus on the things of this world, but instead it helps me to focus on God, the giver of anything I could be thankful for. All right, friends, I'm excited for Ecclesiastes. If you read it through the lens that I'm talking about, like learning from Solomon, it won't pull you down. You won't get down in the dumps. Let's read it to learn from him and to correct the way that we live and the things that we look at and focus on in our own lives. And we'll see you tomorrow for chapter 2. Bye.